Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joy at Work. It's April 24th, 2020. Thanks for taking a few minutes to watch my videos. And if you like the content, feel free to subscribe. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, topics to cover, just let me know. That's cool. So today I want to talk about Slack. And I said last night, I kind of teased, hey, I think I'm going to talk about Slack this morning. And Martha asked, is this Slack the collaboration tool? So, no, not Slack the collaboration tool, at least not this time. Maybe we'll talk about collaboration tools in a future episode. But I want to talk about Slack in the context of resource efficiency or just efficiency in general, right? And this kind of mentality around maximizing or using every available moment or minute or capacity or whatever the resource is, time, just using it to till no more of it's left. If you've been paying attention to a lot of the articles written about COVID-19, one of the interesting perspectives is how our supply chains, how our institutions, how our infrastructure, even how government is finds themselves in a interesting spot because there had been such a focus on efficiency, whether it's efficiency of cost, efficiency of resources, efficiency of the supply chain, whatever it is, that the government, the institutions, the different bodies did not have slack. And so what does slack mean, right? We know the opposite of when something is in slack. Let's start from there. It's tight, there's no space, it's maybe fully stretched out. But when something is slack, like when you say my jeans have some slack or whatever, it means that there's some space. It's not tight fitting, there's room, there's opportunity, there's time, resources available free and not accounted for. And one of the cool things I read this week was a reminder that the famed system thinker, Dr. Edward Deming, said that every business to run optimally must have some slack, and that slack's not zero. So that will, differ or vary pending the business and what you do. Now, what's interesting is the prevailing mindset in industry in all forms of or walks of life is efficiency, 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 productivity, productivity, productivity. It's really how are you asserting and making sure that you have all your resources working and going. If you've ever been in consulting, right, it's kind of like we don't want you on the bench for too long, and this mindset or attitude is found probably everywhere. It's maybe the industrial age thinking about how do we get our machines operating at maximum efficiency and capacity, crept and pretty much influenced everything that we do today. And we see this mindset all the time when organizations are planning how to get their work done. They almost plan all the time with this sense of we have to use every resource we have. And I'm using the term resource here very loosely. Those who follow me know that I don't like calling people resources. I personally just don't think it's the right thing. But loosely speaking, whether it's time or capacity or hours people have available to give, we have this desire to use all of it. And yet we know that if we're going to be resilient, if we're going to be robust or flexible, whatever our coping or response mechanism is, it's hard to do it well if there's no free and available time or capacity or just excess, right? It's just very, very difficult. It's very, very tough. So in business, we know that this isn't a great strategy. It works well when there's no disruption, when everything goes according to plan. But immediately something goes off kilter, then we're in trouble. So the business reality is there. The fact of the matter is, businesses are largely successful ignoring Slack. So you require situations like this to kind of bring Slack back in focus. We'll see if it sticks. Who knows? But for me, the more interesting thing, or as interesting a topic to consider when it comes to Slack, is Slack in our personal lives. And I thought about, a lot about this week, right? Whether it's your and personal life can include your professional life, right? Those are all the same. But when you think about it from that perspective, how much slack, how much free space do you have in your life for the unexpected? And even if the unexpected doesn't happen, how much free space do you have to reflect, to think, for introspection and things like that? And we're not talking about a lot of time here. We're not talking about hours here. We're talking about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Is your calendar, does your calendar have freedom for you to get up, walk outside, and go do something? It's been interesting working from home. Many of us find our calendars filled to just packed, filled to the brim, actually, if you want to look at it that way. And it, if you're not intentional about creating space for yourself in the workday, if you're still have the privilege of working, you can find yourself just overconsumed. Now, this isn't a new phenomenon. Like, this is probably the way it was when you were going into the office. It's just very, very obvious right now because you're at home, probably in your office, and you realize like you just don't leave there because you're sitting down in meetings. And so it's important to be intentional about creating slack for yourself. Like, you might think that others should create it for you, or put it in place. And if you're so fortunate that maybe that happens, but it's also important for you to think about it for yourself and say to yourself, which of the things do I have on my calendar today? Can I move? Can I shift? Are in my control so I can give myself some slack? Or if it's just at the point where everything is based on somebody else sort of imposing on your calendar, which happens in the workplace a lot, is just the nature of the game. Can you raise your hand and say, hey, is there a way I can get some time here because I need some space? Or maybe you need to be proactive and actually block off of your calendar and reserve time for Slack. But this isn't only about in the workplace, right? So how about outside of work in your overall life, right? Do you have Slack time? Do you have downtime? Do you have the ability to step outside and go on the patio or whatever it is that you do to just reflect, just think? Do you need to wake up early to get that Slack time? Do you need to stay up late to get that Slack time? Do you need to create a 20-minute space in your day to get that Slack time? And this can be very difficult. It can be very, very difficult. And this is why it requires intentionality and purpose and focus for it to happen. So, Slack's important. It's important in business, it's important in our personal lives. You might want to reframe Slack as a resting period in that, whatever resource it is, it's not being used for its intended purpose at that particular time. So it's a time for you to breathe, sit down, focus, and think about what's going on, right? And so if we apply Slack in our personal lives, if we apply Slack to our professional lives and apply it in business, then we create space for robustness and resiliency. We have the ability to recover better. Um, we kind of get off of this rat race or kind of a hamster on a wheel lifestyle because things are just going and going and going and going. So as we talk about Slack from a business sense and how it would have been beneficial to respond to this coronavirus pandemic, I think there are lessons in there that are very applicable to our personal lives, to our professional lives. Again, I think this is one of the things that you need to own as an individual. You need to be intentional about finding the spots where you can introduce Slack into your life. After all, it's your life and it's for your health and for your good. So, again, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate having you all. Kind of went away from the jersey, the team jerseys this week, and kind of wanted to represent the Super Eagles on this Friday morning. So I know I have a couple of friends out there who've given me a hard time about Arsenal. Let's see if they'll give me a hard time about this. Talk to you later. Have a great weekend. Bye.